Yeah, my name is Daniel Diaz, and I'm with Lupe.
So you work a lot with the colonias. What are some of the things that you are seeing?
Yeah, a lot of people that live in colonias don't have, reliable infrastructure. For example, there's no broadband in a lot of places or internet access, which affects them economically, like to keep up with the 21st century economy, for example. There's still lack of street lights and drainage systems and investment in economic development in those areas. A lot of them are really disconnected and really sort of like, we call it an urban sprawl, where they're sort of developed outside the city limits. So just based on the way they're developed, it's already a disadvantage for a lot of folks. So when we're talking about poverty, that is an impact in poverty in their situation financially.
All right. So now they have this task force to try and see what are the issues to try and help out in a way, learning, hearing from the people. What are some issues that you feel that are like the top key issues?
I think for sure healthcare is a top issue. I think we live in a county where over 30% of the people don't have health insurance. And we heard the commissioner speak very eloquently about this earlier today about, investing in the way that we eat. We talk about food deserts a lot here, where people don't have the best eating options or access to like the best food. There's food, but maybe not access to the best food. Mm-hmm. Lack of healthcare, lack of investment in public spaces like parks and boys and girls clubs. So those are all the topics that are being discussed today. Aside from that, I'm leading a conversation right now on immigration, because we know that we have a really huge population of foreign-born people here in South Texas, and how that has an impact in people in trying to get jobs. So for example, young people that are undocumented, that are graduating from high school, perhaps they don't have access to their career dream, right? But how do we sort of still fight to create a pathway or a space for them to still be able to work and provide for their families here?
Right, and then I know the other key issue was education. That's
right.
Another thing that they were talking about.
That's
they
right.
really enforced on. Can you talk a little bit more about, are you seeing a lot that aren't pursuing education?
I think the Rio Grande Valley is doing an incredible job with creating pipeline to higher education, considering the situation of poverty that we're in. I've worked in public education myself. I worked in school districts myself as well. We're really trying to improve how we help students transition from high school to college. So we know that the greatest equalizer in our society is a higher education, regardless of what that degree may be. People having the ability to think critically and sort of create a bigger network for themselves once they're in college, that just creates more opportunities for them. So the biggest thing, obviously, is how do we create a greater pipeline of students, whether they're in poverty or not, to be able to go to college or or go to trade school or have a successful career after high school.
Yes, Danny, the legislative session is coming up. Is there anything you feel the state legislature can do to help address some of the task force's issues?
Yeah, I think when it comes to healthcare, we've been working in advocating for Medicaid expansion. We know that expanding Medicaid in the state of Texas would help over 20,000 people here in South Texas have access to healthcare. So that's going to be huge. It's going to be a challenge. The Governor Abbott hasn't been in support of it, but we're going to continue working with the local stakeholders, because we know that business, community groups, everybody in South Texas agrees with expanding Medicaid regardless of the industry that you're in. So we're going to keep pushing that as a united front, I think. And of course, when it comes to education, continue working to get more funds for UTRGV, STC, higher education funds here in South Texas.
And the judge clearly, by putting this event on today, he wanted to hear from the colonia groups, because his task force is all about reducing the level of poverty we have in the valley. Do you feel that the colonia groups represented here today, and others that perhaps aren't here, should have a seat at the table when the valley as a whole develops its legislative agenda? The Valley Partnership will have an agenda, the cities, the Chambers of Commerce. Should there be one agenda for the whole valley that is inclusive of the colonia groups?
Definitely. I think colonia groups need to be at the table with all the other groups in the Rio Grande Valley as a united front. That's the most and best powerful way to be able to get things done for everybody in South Texas. I think that if you don't have residents that are directly affected by some of these bad policies at the state level, we miss the mark sometimes. And we think that we are covering everybody, but maybe we're not, right? Maybe we didn't think about everybody or the whole full 100-foot spectrum situation in South Texas because we forgot to invite people that live in the hardest situations in South Texas. So I think it's a critical group to be at the table, to go lobby in Austin, to go talk to the governor's office, lieutenant governor, state representatives, etc.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
That's it, I think. No, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think we're good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all.
Appreciate it.